from the Department of Biodiversity and Conservation Attractions. I'm sure Emer doesn't need much introduction in the Dieback space here, but I will let Emer take it away with her presentation on Green Card and what the department are currently doing.
Thanks very much, and welcome everyone, and welcome to our remote audience out there. Today I wanted to talk about Green Card. So we've heard quite a bit about Green Card through the various presentations. So before I start, I'd like to just get a show of hands for people who have heard of Green Card. So who's heard of Green Card? Okay, it might be easier to count if we put up hands of people who haven't heard of Green Card. What? Okay, no worries. And can I get a show of hands of people who have done Green Card? Okay, if you just keep your hands up, because my colleagues here are actually counting you, and those that haven't done. Just let us know, Ian and Nathan, when you've and could the people in our remote audience, would the people in our remote audience also send in a little text message? Can we collect that information if they send it in as a text message, just to say whether you've heard of Green Card 1 or 2 if you've done Green Card? So I guess a yes or a no for 1, or a yes or a no for 2. Thanks very much. It's just a quick and dirty survey there. Okay, so Kat Sambrooks, who's sitting over there in the audience, she's going to join me later to help me present this presentation. I'm the Plant Diseases Program Coordinator at the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, and I work with Ian Moore, Nathan Ashburner, Juanita Champini, Loretta Lewis, and Kat Sambrooks. That's the Plant Diseases team. And yeah, it's a busy little group. But today it's just about Green Card, past, present, and future. So Dion has already touched on this around about 2010 or 2011. Dion developed the Green Card down on the South Coast to raise awareness about environmental risks during on-ground works. And then DBCA, Chris Dunn, Mike Pez, and Kat from Dieback Working Group around 2013 adopted the Green Card and then adapted it to really focus in on Dieback, and adopted it more broadly in the department and in the community in collaboration with the Dieback Working Group. So over the last several years, the content and the delivery method has been reviewed and revised by DBCA, again in partnership with the Dieback Working Group. And there was we tried to put more of a stronger focus on biosecurity. I mean, obviously we had to get the message across about Dieback, but we were also trying to put Dieback in that context of it being a biosecurity issue, one that's here rather than one that's knocking on our door to get in, like myrtle rust, which will be talked about later by my colleagues from DPIRD. So in 2017, DBCA made Green Card mandatory for people who were doing on-ground works. And since 2014, Dieback has been delivered in the classroom to over 2,000 trainees by DBCA, Dieback Working Group, and South Coast NRM. And I'd have to say the training that was done by DBCA was largely done, vast amount of it was done by Ian Moore. An incredible stamina, that man, and did a fantastic job getting around so many regions and districts, and sometimes did 2 Green Card sessions back to back in one day. So he's a machine. DBCA moved from issuing certificates. We used to issue cards as well. The Dieback Working Group issues cards at the moment. We also used to issue cards, but the printing of the cards became problematic. So we've actually gone to issuing certificates for attendance, paper certificates. So presently, because of the great promotion that South Coast NRM have done, and the Dieback Working Group has done, and that DBCA has done by making green card mandatory for on-ground works, there's an increasing demand and a growing list of stakeholders that want green card training. So, you know, people that we've trained include state government, local governments, mining organisations, forestry organisations, utilities, recreation groups, and APRIS. And there's a photograph there. That's a recent training that Bruno Rickley from Bark Environmental did. He delivered the training to a Chinese gentleman, a Chinese APRIS, with a translator. So that was a first for all of us, and he did that in partnership with DBCA. So currently, still currently, Green Card remains it's a non-accredited course. So we talked earlier about making it an accredited course, but there's an enormous amount of administration that goes with managing an accredited course. So we decided that the course needed to be information on what staff needed to know to manage Dieback in their day-to-day jobs, and we weren't going to make it accredited. And the department still has no plan to make the course accredited. As I said, the requirement and the demand for it is increasing, but that has led to problems with our capacity to deliver it on demand. So in the department, for example, we would take on what we call seasonals or conservation employees at certain times of the year. And so there'll be a mad rush on needing to train people before they go out in the field. And we, as a group, Ian, Nathan and I would be the ones that would deliver the training. We have limited capacity to do that because training is only one part of what we do. And Green Card is only one course that we deliver. We also deliver another one called Dieback Management Planning. So we had to, we have to look for other ways to deliver this information. Other organisations as well, because partly because they're probably having some trouble with getting people to deliver the training, are interested in developing their own version of the Green Card, and that has raised issues around quality control, harmonisation of versions, and that sort of thing. Which brings us to Green Card of the future. So because of the increasing demand, the issues around capacity to deliver it in some instances, not in all instances, the private sector interpreters, there's a number of them registered with the Dieback Working Group to deliver training. They seem to have quite a bit of capacity. We have some issues internally with delivering it in the classroom. But also the harmonisation of versions of Green Card, we decided that we would form a Dieback training consortium. And the other thing that DBCA has done is we've developed an online version of the Green Card. So these are our future tools. So the Dieback Training Consortium, we had our first meeting in April 2020, so we're very new. And the reason why we got together, our objectives are to oversee the quality of the information and sustainable delivery of existing and emerging Dieback training in Western Australia. So not just about Green Card, it could be other types of training, could be machine operators training, could be Dieback management planning training, and to combine resources and expertise to produce and deliver high quality Dieback training. And the members of the consortium at the moment are DBCA, and we're a registered training organisation, the Dieback Working Group, South Coast NRM, Western Power, which is a registered training organisation, and I forgot to put in there, and it's a bad omission on my part, but we do have the industry trainers are also members of the Dieback Training Consortium. And what we hope to do, we'll at the moment, Western Power are working on adapting the online Green Card, the DBCA online Green Card, to other audiences. contextualizing it to a Western Power audience, but also producing another version for a more generalized audience. We do hope, and we have talked a little bit about other training products, as I said, potentially other training courses, general awareness training for people, DIY training for people who don't necessarily have to have a green card but still want the information. So those people who are horse riders or those recreational users who don't necessarily have to have evidence that they've done green card but still need the information. So we've talked about developing that information as well. And Western Power have got some really nice ideas about how accreditation could be incorporated into the green card product. But as I said, it's early days and we're working on it, so it's really a watch this space project. So onto the DBCA online green card. It's just been developed, and other than the people who have tested it, we haven't had any students go through it yet, but we have had a number of staff members go through it to test it. There's pros and cons to online training, and I would imagine, can I just get a show of hands, anybody who's had to do online training? Not quite as many as I thought, but we have quite a bit of online training. We've got quite a bit of mandatory training in the department, and a lot of it's online. And I did a Cert 3 last year, and there was a large component of it that was online, and it was hard going. It was long, lots of text. It's not always the best way to deliver information. It can be. I can see the reason why it has to be done, and we've gone down that path ourselves, but it's not without its problems. So the pros of it, of course, is that you can reach more people with it, and that's one of our objectives. The other advantage is that you can have refresher training. So with classroom training, we didn't put an expiry date on our green card on purpose, because we knew that we weren't going to be able to get around everybody every 3 years or 4 years. We have over 1,000 staff that need this training, and we just knew we wouldn't be able to get around them that often. However, with the online training, we can set a date at which people need to do a refresher of the course. It obviously saves resources. Ian did a phenomenal number of kilometres in the time that he was doing the training. There's a convenience factor. There's saving carbon, reducing your carbon footprint because you're not travelling around so much. Scheduling is a big thing, a huge thing for us. Ian would often organise the training weeks in advance, turn up for the training, and people would have been pulled off for fire. That wasn't an uncommon occurrence. So then that was a wasted trip for us, and it had to be rescheduled. The advantage of the online training is when you see it, we're going to give you a taster module today. It can be delivered in the classroom. So it can be just projected up on the screen, just like PowerPoint, and it can be delivered in the classroom, and the assessments can be printed out, and it can be done that way. And we definitely are going to need that, because we have staff and contractors that will have literacy or numeracy issues. And we also have the issue that anyone who does the online training has to have an individual email address, and there will be contractors that don't have an email address. They don't have any need for an email address. There might be machine operators or machine owners, and they don't use computers. So we have to have a classroom option for those people. And I think with the online green card, I've been given the feedback that the assessment is more rigorous than the classroom one. But the cons are, there is no interaction. You can't share, when Ian and I were doing the training, Ian would share examples of when he was, when he worked on machines, or when he had his interpreting business. He would give real life examples, and you could ask for examples from the audience, and you would learn so much from the people. So we don't have that. Also, there's the issue of brevity. You know, you can't expand on things in the same way that you would if you're giving classroom training. And it's hard to communicate nuance. So especially in terms of biosecurity, for example, you know, we like to weave in the biosecurity message into the Dieback training, but because you've got to be brief, you know, because you really just need to get to the point, we really need to focus on the Dieback message in the online training. It's also not completely automated, as I'm finding as I'm trying to set up the first set of students. There is quite a bit of behind the scenes administration that I will have to do to get students through, and quality assurance, and get the certificates issued, so it's not completely automated. But it's a needs must. As I said, we have a lot of people that need it. We've made it mandatory. We have to somehow get the message out to people. So we've had to go down this track, and we've got to make the best of it. So the process, I'm not going to go into great detail on this because I'm hoping to somehow streamline it. But as I said, the people who are already DBCA staff, it's quite streamlined for them. But for contractors or conservation workers that have their own email address, there's a bit of a process involved. A number of steps, you know, which is, I'm just wondering how workable that'll be. So next year I'll be able to tell you how I've been able to streamline it. So I'm not going to go into the process in great detail. Gives me the shivers just looking at it, to be honest with you. So I'll just go straight to the content because that's much more interesting. So again, the content, you've got to make a decision about what you're going to leave in and what you're going to leave out. So you need to cover a range of things, but you can't go into expansive detail. So the length of time it would take somebody who has never done green card to do this course, or who doesn't know anything about Dieback, I mean, to do this course, and who doesn't know anything about DBCA processes and procedures, it would probably take them about 4 hours, we estimate. And that includes the assessment. So the way we've set it up is that there's an assessment after each module rather than doing the whole course and then having a big assessment at the end. So if you know Dieback, and say you were doing this as a refresher, it would probably only take you 2 hours. So there, as you can see there, there's 8 modules, and it's really stepping through the basic information, and we do need to make, you know, there's no assumed knowledge here. There's no assumed knowledge in this course, and that's because when we get new staff, this has to be all things to all people, because with the amount of resources that goes into developing something like this, you can't have number, and administering it, you can't have number of versions of it. You've really got to try and get it all into the one thing. So it does, for some people it's going to be, you know, it's going to be teaching people what they already know, but I guess that reinforcement isn't bad as well. So we go through you know, what is Phytophthora dieback, what causes it, how does it spread, disturbance activities, because in the department as a land management agency, as well as our conservation obligations, which there are disturbances involved in conservation obligations as well. We have to provide safe and sustainable access to any number of stakeholders to the land, and that requires road building and road maintenance and prescribed burns and etc., etc. So there's quite a bit of focus in our green card, in the DBCA green card, on the risks, the dieback risks associated with disturbance activities and how we manage those risks in the department. We also have a module on dieback management during bushfire suppression, because that's not a planned disturbance activity. As we all know, unfortunately, fire is usually an emergency situation and quite different to what you can do in terms of dieback management if you're doing something planned. And then we have a section on hygiene, and we have a section on myrtle rust awareness. And that might seem a bit incongruous there, but I guess this is the biosecurity side of things. We have dieback, we're managing dieback, it's a near and present danger, but myrtle rust is something that we don't want in the state. We want to try and keep out. And this is a really good vehicle to keep it in the forefront of people's minds if they see anything weird and wonderful to report it. So without further ado, I think we will go to the taster. Just before we go on to the taster, in case I forget at the end of my presentation, I have put some biosecurity links because there's some really lovely biosecurity tools being developed now by the Australian government, and it's really well worth looking at those links in terms of general biosecurity. So if I do that, and I do that, and I do that, okay, I was looking good there for a minute. This one? There. Oh, share screen. She knows what she's doing. No. It was open. Might have closed. There it is. Beautiful. Beautiful. Share. Okay, so this is the actual online course, and I'm going to open. We're going to do module 2 today because it's a nice short one. We are going. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, it's making me log in again. Okay. There we go. Right. And this is Kat Sambrooks, who works with us, and many of you will know Kat Sambrooks from her dieback working group days.
Several years of
it.
dieback working group. I have to say this is my second ever DIG presentation. But it is lovely to be back here with the DIG audience. You're amazing people coming together for a really good reason. And I love seeing the DIG conference turn out like this. Okay, are we ready, students? Yes. Yep, good. Listening ears on. We're going to start with how does Phytophthora dieback spread? Okay. I'll just show you this short video.
There is a continuous life cycle. Spores in the soil are moved to a new location and assisted downslope via water. Roots are infected by zoospores. Mycelium feeds on roots. Spores continue to develop while simultaneously mycelium moves from root to root. Resulting sporangia sacs release new spores, which is the beginning of a new life cycle, where zoospores are moved to a new location.
Okay, so that was a little overview of simplified process, the way that spores and Phytophthora move through the landscape, picked up and transported on. So We say dieback and we say Phytophthora dieback. So what is that link between Phytophthora dieback and dieback? Well, when the plant pathogen Phytophthora, and we're talking about the many species there, is spread to an uninfested site, it infects the plants. The resulting disease is what we call Phytophthora dieback or dieback. It is spread naturally, it is spread by animals, and as we well and truly know, it's spread by humans.
Can you stay so that the webcam people can see you? Thank you.
Self-promote. Getting a good view of my shoes.
This is now like the boot cleaning camera.
Yeah.
I don't know how this works.
Figure it out.
It's a weird stand. Anyway,
Sorry, online audience. I'm getting a strange view at the moment. We're short for time, so I'll continue on while that's in progress. Okay, natural spread. Natural spread occurs when Phytophthora is carried in surface and subsurface water flow. The zoospores of Phytophthora can swim short distances in water. They can last usually up to an hour in the water, spreading through that soil water. The mycelium, those fine transparent threads produced by Phytophthora, spread between plants by root-to-root contact. So when neighbouring plants' roots are intertwined, they'll easily spread on from one onto the other. I'll try to stand still. Natural spread of Phytophthora through runoff. It occurs under wet conditions. It is the fastest form of natural spread, and have a look at that track there near Coroma, near Esperance. After heavy rain, you can see that watershed is taking whatever's in that soil downslope down to new sites. It's reasonably predictable, and that's why in modelling such as that created by Tilo and the South Coast NRM Project Dieback team, we're able to map and predict where it's going to go next. However, it's not easily controllable. What you're seeing in this video, this is the root tip of the plant, and those are Phytophthora zoospores swimming around. There's a mass of zoospores. So they'll have two little tails that they're flicking along, using to move themselves through the water. So they're trying to find a suitable spot. Obviously, it's quite a lot of competition. Trying to find a suitable spot on that root tip to attach themselves. Adrian Hardham's done some amazing research on how they stick themselves to the outside of that root and then use some pretty intense chemicals to break down that root barrier and get inside and start invading. Root-to-root contact. Now this is the slowest method of spread, but this is one of those, I guess, one of those myths that tend to persist. Yes, Phytophthora can spread upslope, and this is how it does it. Root to root, those mycelium spreading from one root system to another slowly advances upslope. The Manxia speciosa heath in this picture is not infested, I should say. That's why it looks so healthy and beautiful. But imagine if it was. All of those, where you've got a heath system like that, all of those root systems intertwined. Phytophthora gets in there, even if we're not on a slope, it's spreading from one plant to the next. Boom, boom, boom. Sorry, online audience, I keep running away. Animals. Animals spread Phytophthora when the soil gets caught under their feet and fur and drops off in uninfested areas. So like with us, it's going to occur more readily under wet conditions. It's unpredictable unless we know where and how the animals range. It's unpredictable to know how far or where they're going to take it to. It can cause infestations in areas that we can't really access, but they can. It is difficult and expensive to manage. We have seen examples of that management, the kangaroo fencing down in the Fitzgerald River National Park, that you can see here in the picture. Does anyone know, class, this is a little test your knowledge, what kinds of animals can spread Phytophthora?
Kangaroos, quokkas.
Quokkas? Put quokkas in the Kyle.
Quokkas are all rare plants.
Tiny little thing. Yeah. I'll take kangaroos though. Quokkas, a little, yep. Pigs. Can we get a how? How do pigs spread?
Through their
Cloven hoofs. And any other way? Does anyone know another way that pigs? Through their gut system. That's right. Some fantastic research out of Murdoch found that when pigs eat infested root and soil material, trying to get the fungi and whatever's down there, those phytophthora can survive that trip through their gut system. Any other animals we want to dive in? Sheep? Yeah.
Deer.
Horses? Deer? Oh, horses. Who said horses? Thank you, Ian. Horses. Look at the shape of their feet. They're basically cups that get filled with mud. So horses going into our sensitive areas in wet conditions, excellent for transporting soil on their hooves. Yeah.
With kangaroos, what I've noticed tends to be where they come out of the swamps or creek crossings, and where the pads are really well worn, we have high numbers. Other than that, you don't seem to see kangaroos, situation so much.
So for our online audience, Ian Moore was just saying that the kangaroo spread tends to be where they come out of those wet areas and spread along those trails. Thanks, Ian. Ian gets a star. Feral pigs. So feral pigs can cause significant spread of dieback. They dig over and turn over the soil, feeding on plant roots, earthworms, insects. When soil infested with phytophthora is wet, it sticks to their feet, sticks to their coat, and they can transport it to those new areas. Now, at least with the behaviour of pigs, we know they have distinct territories. So I guess that gives it some ability to predict where and how far they're spreading within those territories, but it still gives us additional cause to control feral pigs where we don't want the spread, those priority areas. It's estimated that 2 pigs, the 2 in the photo, turned over 50 square metres of soil in 3 nights foraging within the forest of the Warren region. Pigs, as we know, also do enormous physical damage, and they're scary as hell when you meet them in the bush. Humans. No surprise to any of you here that we are still the main cause of spread of this disease. We move phytophthora when we disturb infested soil. We can move it faster and further than any means, and history shows that. Our spread occurs more readily under wet conditions, when those soils are sticking to our machinery, to our boots. It is predictable and controllable for the most part, because a lot of these are managed activities that we're doing and have been in the past. There are the more unpredictable recreational activities, but a lot of it is predictable. We know where we're going, we know what we're doing, we've just got to put the steps in place first. And of course, it can be intentional or unintentional. A carrier, so this is something used quite often in DBCA terminology and our policies and procedures. Carrier is anything capable of picking up soil. It's referred, anything can do that is referred to as a potential carrier. So entering disease risk areas, your vehicle, anything you're taking with you is a carrier. Carriers include, not limited to, hooves, footwear, equipment, shovels, augers, tyres. So we think about forest revegetation, all of that equipment there. Wet soil, of course. Let me reinforce this once again. Wet soil will more readily stick to the footwear, to the hooves, to the tracks, to the machinery. And if we're dealing with clayey soils, when they go hard, they're much harder to get off. They stick like cement. So we've really got to keep on top of that hygiene. We've got some examples in the picture here. Soil can be picked up and moved unintentionally through walking, horse riding, mountain biking, trail bike riding, driving, moving machinery. The picture there is of mounted police. And look at those hooves. Look how much dirt is in there, how much soil they're moving. Unintentional. Normal driving can result in unintentional soil movement. Intentionally, those soil disturbance of movement can be, through extreme four-wheel driving, mountain biking, a lot of these activities that land managers here are trying to manage in a way that prevents dieback spread and impact on our ecosystems. Intentional. Again, we've got extreme four-wheel driving, trail bike, mountain riding, vegetation clearing, timber harvesting, road construction and maintenance, exploration and research of BRM. These are all things that we do every day in our forests in the southwest of WA. So in summary, when soil that is infested with plant pathogen Phytophthora is introduced and established, Phytophthora dieback disease develops. This can spread naturally through root-to-root contact, through runoff, through those zoospores. Animals spread Phytophthora in soil, gets caught in their feet and fur and drops off into new areas. And humans spread Phytophthora when they disturb soil through intentional and unintentional activities. And we can, of course, spread it further and farther than any other method. All right. Are we ready to undertake our assessment? Yep. I hope you kept all that. Okay. It's only 7 questions. So just a little bit behind the scenes here. Emer set it up so she has a backlog of sort of an assortment of questions. So 7 questions are chosen from those, and with each user and each login, they'll be randomly reassigned. So I guess makes it easier for you to just, make sure that a person is doing their original work, and each time it will look a little bit different. How do humans spread Phytophthora? Okay, class. A, anytime they disturb or move infested soil with Phytophthora. B, when they drive along wet and muddy tracks. C, when they harvest timber in an infested area, do not clean machines while harvesting. Or D, all of the above. Who says A? Hands up for A. B? C? D? Well done, class. Let's check. Yep, you got a green tick, well done. A potential carrier of Phytophthora is anything that can pick up and transport soil. Hands up for false. Hands up for true. Well done, you're good. What conditions greatly increase the likelihood of Phytophthora spreading? Hands up for A, hot conditions. B, wet conditions. Yep. C, cold conditions. Or D, windy conditions. So we're locking in B. Well done. Of course, we know warm conditions are part of that as well, but from the choices listed, you wouldn't choose hot. So wet is the best choice. How do animals spread Phytophthora? So A, we have soil infested with Phytophthora gets caught in the feet and fur of animals. B, through foraging, pigs can cause significant disturbance and movement of soil. C, when conditions are wet, animals are more likely to pick it up. Or D, all of the above. D? All right, Ian, I'll look at D. How does Phytophthora spread? Okay, we have A, by wind again, B, naturally, C, animals, or D, humans. Hands up for A. You can choose more than one. No? Hands up for B. C. D. Good job. Not until we get Phytophthora ramorum do we have to select A. Okay, 2 more questions to go. What is the link between Phytophthora and Dieback? Select 1. A, Dieback can develop without Phytophthora. B, Phytophthora must be present at a site before Dieback, the disease, can develop. C, Dieback must be present at a site before Phytophthora is introduced. Or D, none of the above. Hands up for A. Hands up for B. There we go. C. D. Yep. All right, on to our last question. How does Phytophthora spread naturally? So we can select 1 or more answers here. A, Phytophthora zoospores are carried by insects. B, Phytophthora is carried in surface and subsurface flow of water. C, zoospores of Phytophthora swim short distances in soil water. Or D, mycelium of Phytophthora spreads plants by root to root contact. Hands up for A, B, C, and D. And we've completed our quiz. Well done, everyone. A round of applause to all of our wonderful students today. I hope our online audience was playing along at home. You've got 7 out of 7 correct. It didn't take that long. It wasn't very painful, and I think we got the main messages across. So, Emer, did you want to wrap up?
No, I think that's, thanks very much, Kat. She was great. Well done. Well, unfortunately, this is what we're missing when we do online without the cat.
Cat free.
Thanks, guys. Do we have any questions?
So, yes.
I was thinking, have you thought about including the green card training a variety of university degrees?
Haven't approached the universities yet, but the Department of Education is currently reviewing it to see if it could fit into the WS school curriculum. I was thinking maybe year 11 and 12. I don't know yet. See what they have to say first, but yeah, I think potentially could go into some of those early courses. Yeah.
Emer, how much is the online course, or is it free?
We don't charge for it in the department. We don't charge for it internally. I'm not entirely sure what the charging might end up being for external courses. We haven't got an external online course. We haven't got to that point yet. But as I said, it's not completely hands-free. So there is some administration. So depending on the organisation offering it, there probably will be a charge, but I'm not sure what it would be.
So there will be plans to potentially roll it out to maybe government or other.
Oh, we hope so. So the consortium. So Bridget over here in the back waving. Bridget is from Western Power, and Bridget is currently working on contextualising this course, this DBCA course. Should I be in front of the camera for the? Hello. Sorry about that. Contextualising the course for Western Power, but also doing a. Bridget, do you want to say something about that? No, not ready yet. No. Okay. Yeah. But also doing a general one, a general audience, and one contextualised for Western Power. Yeah.
Thanks, Emer. And Emer put on their presentation, watch this space, very much so. So at the moment, if anyone is interested in getting green card training for their organisation, have a chat with David English here. Obviously, DWG have a large role to play in this space. DBCA might be in their interest of Emer, but is not going to train everyone in the state, obviously as a state government organisation. So that's the role of the consultancy, the consortium at the moment is just looking at options around how green card training can be delivered to both agency staff to meet DBCA needs, but also out that too for local government and others. Sorry, I'll switch that off. Great, thanks, Anna. And applause, everyone. Thank you. Right. We're going to now diversify